already planning next year, so I'm really pleased that you're all here for our penultimate speaker, which is Yaw Fosu. For people who have been before, you know that Yaw is my brother, and also one of the cornerstones of the reason why we have African spiritual practices. And I kind of say this every time I introduce him, that as Yaw's gifts started coming online, I realized that lots of other people's gifts had started to also come online. And so it feels important that Yaw keeps speaking and talking about what that process looks like, because I know a lot of people can't yet identify what's happening inside of themselves and the unusual dreams and the feelings and the vibrations. So it's really good to have somebody speaking about those things and more. Yaw Fosu, thank you.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Anyway, my name's Yaw. Like my sister's introduced me to you. I never know how to start these talks, but basically I'll start with this picture here, because of when my sister said that she wanted to have a theme for the talk this time, which was what was it? What is it to be human? Okay. I don't know about that, but anyway, when she said about what it is to be human, my mind went straight away, because of sometimes maybe I've got a bit of a negativity when it comes to the concept of being human, because I believe that there's so much more to us basically from the experiences I've had to date, and it reminded me of this film, like The Shawshank Redemption. Because it's almost like you've got people locked within a prison, but then there's this one character who he has, you could say, a little bit more than others in terms of his outlook. And then the film is loaded with a lot of symbology as well, because of obviously he's gone into prison for something he hasn't been he is not guilty of. And then he makes friends with Morgan Freeman, who's played as Red, who you could say his character is, let me get this right, his character Red corresponds to the root chakra. So he's the person who can get everybody, he can get you everything in prison, all the good stuff. He gives Andy Dufresne the pictures of like women, he can get you the videos, whatever, all of the stuff that associated with the root chakra, what would make you comfortable within the prison setting. And then within that, Andy Dufresne himself, he has his own, he comes with a sophisticated level of knowledge. He likes geology, and part of even say the human experience, which is you could say part of this human experience of our ancestors leaving us legacies, is loaded within the rocks and megaliths that they've left. So it just made me think of all of those things. And in the film, he escapes through using a tool of like the Bible with Exodus, which is obviously like releasing yourself from something, moving away from something. So yeah, it just made me think of that, of the film Shawshank Redemption, and then at the end he escapes, goes through the sewage and all of this sort of stuff, which just means it just reminded me of just going through the deepest, dirtiest aspects of self to release yourself and then he finds his like redemption in the place in Mexico, say Guantanamo, and he's on a boat, and then it's like he can make his boat basically an escape, and that just reminded me of being like the sunboat of Ra, within the Egyptian cosmology, which is what I'm going to be talking about now. I'm trying to beat these nerves, sorry. Public speaking is not the one. Thank you. All right, let me take off my jacket as well. It was a bit cold in here before, but I started getting hot. Okay, so I try not to be too wooden, because I wrote it down, because sometimes I forget. what I'm supposed to say, like what happened just now. Okay. Over the years, many civilizations have come to the East African Nile region for education and illumination. In the past, the place was known as Kemet, into English as the Black Land. Kemet has had many other names as the tradition and the people go back before records begun. But black, I feel, was a symbol of going back into the black inner sanctuaries of self. This is where the power of creation dwells. It is hidden from the ones who aren't willing to explore these inner realms of magnetism and magic. This is why we now have the term black magic and the occult, which just means hidden, the hidden civilization within. Both black magic and the occult are names and terms that are cloaked in fear and mystery, corresponding to the fear of going inside, to being at one with the shadow. This also seems to have sifted into our inner reality in regards to other symbols associated with the color black. Characters who were once rich with dark melanin have also changed in appearance, from Buddha to Michael Jackson. This phenomena has coincided with the decline of interpreting the wisdom of our ancestors. This decline is also displayed in stonework. The earlier stonework is far more advanced than the newer renditions of the temples and pyramidal structures and statues. This is also demonstrated across the globe in structures on land and sunken cities in the sea. Whether you're in Cusco, Peru, Angkor Wat, Cambodia, or standing at the Temple of the Sun and Moon in Mexico, what you're witnessing is a masterclass of times gone by. The decline of Kemet from its much heralded past as a school of learning and magic now has its name Egypt, which is an Arabic name. The region has also changed from Africa or the Nile Valley region to its now commonly known epithet as the Middle East, illustrating the map is not the territory. The term Middle East may symbolically represent the land is known to be in the center of Earth's landmass. The human form also has these poles within the realms of esoterica. When standing in the sagittal plane, the east is symbolic to the front of as well as the inside of the body. The north, the top of your head. The south, your feet. The west, the back of your body. So when you're reading certain books, you can even, or could say religious texts, you can think of the term East of Eden may have different connotations when deciphering these texts. With that being said, by separating Egypt from the African continent does help to disenfranchise and separate the people from the continent, from the greatness of their ancestors and the seeds of knowledge that they planted. Changing the name of the region can also be looked upon as a word magic spell, but it's easily broken. Then you have stories and endless documentaries of extraterrestrials that built these structures. Terrestres was in fact an ancient name for Earth, so extraterrestrial means extra Earth. I definitely agree with this. We are more than just Earth. I was told this recently, that we design solar systems. The knowledge of the ancestors has given rise to civilizations across the globe, taking people from barbarism into a dim light. Europeans, after gleaning this knowledge, gave rise to what was called the Renaissance period. The Latin roots of the word Renaissance is being born, back again, birth. If the law of as above, so below, as within, so without is to be recognized in this regard, Mother Africa would be the place that her children would come to eat and grow from her seeds of knowledge. These seeds have been harvested. These seeds have harvested civilizations first built on agriculture to what we have now, an AI-driven, somewhat angry culture, bounded in a celestial caste system. So who needs a microchip when you can embrace a label designed to give you a reactionary chip on your shoulder? This control has been embraced by the masses from top to bottom, manifesting the effects of a light-locked amnesia within a cycle of reincarnation, reincarceration, so both slave and master are locked in a mutual embrace. I don't think it's profitable to hate the players, though. but it's wise to know that you're a player in a game. Part of this narrative of the game is obscuring the truth of what has gone before. This helps keeping the masses in a self-contained reality designed by the construct. This is drip-fed into you from the time your parents send you to school for programming. You are kneel by mouth and educated into a comatose state. History is something which lays in the realms of debate and in most cases fantasy. If you've read or listened to most academic texts or esteemed scholars explaining how things are, which is the reason when doing my own research, I try in earnest to free the mind and heart, and free the mind and feel the heart of our ancestors. This process requires you to strip yourself of what you know of your linear world of form, fight and flight, survival, materialism, and enter a quantum shift of form, the world of the absolute, the limitless, the world of immortality, beyond our current concepts of space and time, where possibilities that you're able to fold and bend space at or to your will apply. About 4 years ago now, I kept on seeing a young boy who would pop up randomly in my dreams. He was about 6 to 8 years old. The first time I saw him, I was looking at a book. This book was an ancient book of magic. Each page I turned had a demonic-looking magical character, carefully drawn in pencil. As I turned each page, fascinated by the images, I got to an image of a young African boy. As I looked at this out-of-place character, I felt the boy's invisible spirit spring from the book and grab me by the arms from behind. I was like that. At first, playfully restraining me, my first reaction was, "Hey, let go of me, little fella." His grip quickly got tighter. I tensed up a little and had the attitude of thought of, "Hey, don't let me use my strength on you, little guy." He must have read my thoughts quicker than they came out of my head, because as soon as I thought these thoughts, he rapidly tightened his grip and then started to toss me from side to side, bouncing me like a pogo. I was fully restrained by a happy baby spirit with the strength of Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan combined. After I calmed the struggle, he relented and freed my arms. This process of struggling and relenting with spirits has got easier over the last few years, to the point where now, in the most part, I'm able to completely let go, to the point that it doesn't happen anymore. And as time has gone by, each visitation has led me to greater knowledge of alchemy and the initiation I'm going through. I believe this is all part of a kind of waking up process, releasing me from my deepest physical and mental fears of the unknown. Still have fears of talking in front of people though. But anyway, I'll move on. After this episode, I would see the boy and he would always say the same thing: "You're immortal." Months later, after having a few more of these dreams, which the boy would tell me, "You're immortal," I dreamt I was lying on the great cosmic mother, a great giant of a woman. In comparison to me, she was at least 15 foot in height, shining, beautiful brown skin, large, heaving, heavy breasts. This is from my diary. Large, heaving, heavy breasts, akin to a Saba melon. I don't know what a Saba melon is, but I remember it from Coming to America. I just wrote it. So, yeah, as I was saying, I was nestled in her stomach, rubbing her cosmic yoni, not in a sexual manner, but just as in a way of comfort. I don't think I've ever felt such supreme comfort in my whole life. As I snuggled between her bountiful breasts, she then slowly lifted me from my infinite comfort, smiled at me, picked up the magical child who was sitting on the floor playing, both her and the boy looking back at me as she walked away. A few months later, I saw the great cosmic mother from my dream in her shrunken, feisty human form. She was now on the Killer Priest podcast. Her name, Sophia Stewart, who wrote the book synchronistically called The Third Eye, which she claims the franchise, The Matrix and the Terminators, copied from her original book, The Third Eye. And I say synchronistically because I haven't really gone into the other aspects of why I say synchronicity in terms of the spiritual eye. Her name, Sophia, symbolically refers to the goddess of wisdom in Gnosticism. Sophia is the feminine figure analogous to the soul, but simultaneously one of the emanations of the monad. Sophia is one of the central figures in Gnosticism, a proto-Christian philosophical movement which has its origins in Egypt and was adapted by the Greeks and the Persians. The Sirius star was called Sophis or Sopadet, and that corresponds to Sophia as well. And the Asian Cometians, they didn't have like vowels in their word, so they spelled it SPDT, which meant triangle. So when I read that, it just reminded me of yeah, there is actually. I didn't get it in any particular order, but yeah, okay, that's the book, The Third Eye, anyway. So that, yeah, and when that, where was I? Okay, thanks for the heads up, though. Okay, and then as I was saying, yeah, it corresponded, and then yeah, SPDT triangle. The Greek sophist, guarantor of fertility, and Sirius, because of Sophia, she corresponded to the Sirius star, and which guaranteed fertility of the land. The appearance of the star was known as the Dog Days. And the tribe in Asia, in Mali, the Dogon, that you can find like books on Sirius and the cosmology, like in the book The Pale Fox, and I think there's a few others, but slipped my mind now. As Sirius is visible with the constellation of Orion, the Egyptians worshipped Orion as god Sa, the husband of Sopdet, with whom she had a son, the sky god Sopdu. The goddess Sopdet was later syncretized with the goddess Isis Aset. Sa was linked with Osiris. Sopdet was linked to the falcon god Horus, Heru. The joining of Sopdet with Isis would follow Plutarch to state the soul of Isis is called the dog by the Greeks, meaning Sirius worship. Isis Sopdet by the Egyptians was named the dog by the Greeks and Romans. The 70-day period of absence of Sirius from the sky was understood to be the passing of Sopdet, Isis, and Osiris through the Egyptian underworld. Gnosticism emphasized individual knowledge and wisdom as a path to salvation, oneness with God. Its followers worship Sophia as both the beautiful female creator, counterpart to Christ. According to Gnostic belief, Christ was conceived of having two aspects, a male half identified as the sun god, and a female half called Sophia, who was venerated as the mother of the universe. According to the Apocryphon of John, one of the main texts of Gnosticism, Sophia represented divine wisdom and the female spirit. In Gnostic creation stories, Sophia, seeing God's creation, desired to make something of her own. The being she formed was her son, Alaudabroth, who had the face of a lion, the body of a serpent. Alaudabroth later used Sophia's power to create the material world. Because of her relationship with Alaudabroth's creation, Sophia became known and worshipped as the mother of the universe. Alaudabroth was also known as the child of chaos, as well as the demiurge. And once the demiurge had created the material world, which is in stories a fake copy of the real world, which I found quite synchronistic, as Sophia Stewart was suing Warner Brothers for copying her work, making the film. So I just found that, the correspondence between this story, and her name and popping up in my dream. And when this book came, because there's a thing that I think a lot of people have had, and if you've heard me talk before about the 11:11, it just seems to be all over me in my life. This book, when it came at 11:11. The guy just knocked on my door, bang, at that time, because just noticed things like that. I learned from Bobby Hemmett, the occult researcher, that there's a magical child within the portals of the heart chakra. I feel this young boy is also an aspect of my inner child that dwells within the deepest aspects of self, as well as the immortal soul. I recently saw the boy again in a dream. He had grown slightly. He looked about 10 years old this time. I was asked to cure his oncoming blindness by 3 elderly African women. Always take note of dreams. When you notice the number 3, whether you see 3 people or whether the dreams flash in threes, 3 is a very spiritual number. They always have, dreams with 3, sometimes you may not notice them instantly, but just your awareness of noticing them will bring forth the messages in time. I held the boy's head in the palm of my hand and sent vibrations through the other hand. So I was holding him like that over his afflicted eyes, sending vibrations of magnetic energy, which cured him. He then started dancing with happiness. His dance soon turned to a movement reminiscent to a witch doctor, conjuring spirits with ritualistic movement. I then got on the black bike I was riding when I was stopped, and then just as nonchalantly as I came, I left the scene. Our ancestors in Kem and around the world left us vestiges of knowledge within elaborate carvings and statues and ornaments and sacred texts and papyri. They built mounds, pyramidal structures and temples which were harmonically tuned to the resonant frequency of Earth, universe, God, man, God, woman. All this with copper tools and wood, if you believe such fantasy. In truth, the more you gain in psycho-mystical consciousness, the more access this allows you to see through the eyes of the ancients and acquire a semblance of truth. Gnosis allows you a greater level of question, also to gain a greater level of answer. With faith, the effect is to know thyself. On the temple wall, they tell us that the Neteru ruled at a time known as the Zeptepi, the first time. Then the followers and companions of Horus, Heru. This period spanned 36,000 years or so. Even though this knowledge looks as though it's been picked apart akin to a rotten carcass being mauled by starving carnivorous birds in the desert, this gnosis was built to last through cataclysms, gatekeepers, and simulated agent provocateurs. Cultural vultures systematically turning true gnosis inside out, upside down, creating a more diluted photo-negative reality. And if this last statement is to be true, there must indeed be a place, a reality that displays a truer picture than our current 5 sense reality allows us to manifest. Our true senses may lay dormant somewhere in the real world. And the picture will not be illuminated until the custodians regain their divine mind once again. Pick up the pieces where giants once walked, men of renown, as stated in the good book. I have traversed the stars in the past and have had visions of seeing the grid and design plans of Mars and Earth. Let me see if I can find that one. So, let's see. Oops, somebody's phone. Let's see. So, yeah. Okay, like sure some of you may be aware, so you've got like the Great Pyramid of Giza, which follows the alignment of Orion's belt. In Mexico, you've got the same thing, and then you've got the one in China, the Chinese one. They don't let no one go there, and then obviously you can see the constellation of Orion right here, and then this is the grid system. This is Orion's. This is pyramids, pyramidal structures which have been taken on Mars, basically. And when I was 19, most probably can't see it from there. Got my hat on. But basically, these 3 dots appeared on my head, which are basically the alignment of Orion's belt. And then, yeah, right there. And in Japan, they have a thing, the mystics will say they're activating Orion to activate their pineal gland. And in the last 4 or 5 years, this is where some of my story started, getting away from what I've written here, is that my body started vibrating, I was getting weird dreams, and and at the time I just thought it was something happening, but basically as time has gone on, what that vibration is like basically what people would call like Kundalini energy, but like from what I've been told, because like people have like Kundalini energy experiences, this energy is constantly with me, doing things all over my body, like I'm talking about constantly, and then in that time, I was with the time as the vibrations were growing and this energy is moving around, it's an intelligent energy, doing things, I'm getting spiritual operations and things are being done to my brain, moving and reorganizing, like, yeah, my whole brain basically, and doing things to, like, there's like, now I know things about the brain, like the corpus callosum, because these, it's like right in the middle. If it's you could say part of the brain, which allows the messages to go from left and right hemisphere of your brain. And so all of these things were done to my brain. It's just there, and loads of things done to my pineal gland, my hippocampus. Yeah, just loads of things. In that time, I'll let you go in a second, but in that time, it allowed me to feel electromagnetic energy, whether it's from people, whether it's from the earth, like I can look at maps and feel, you could say, like the earth has its ley lines and things like that. I can feel the ley lines of earth, grit, like, yeah, just anything with energy, and then I'm able to manipulate certain like energy between crystals and manipulate energies in the human body as well. And in that time, when these things were happening, I was, believe it or not, I was like the first visitation, I was visited by the god Horus, and then at that time he sat down, overlooked. It must have been a very important operation because through it, and I'm cutting this short, he basically after that I was able to feel people's chakras. And then, yeah, I could feel people's chakras after a couple of weeks of like Horus coming to my house, as I say. This outside of my house, like there was a building work and a crane turned up with the Falcon there, just almost, and it was building an old people's home right outside of my house. The old people's home is called Hamberley Care Homes. Decoded, because I start decoding lots of things. Hamberley, ham, which is, you'd find from the term black. Burley means, burley is they call it a fish bait. But within this time as well, I've been having lots of correspondences with the god Osiris, Asar. And he was in one of the stories, he was thrown into the sea and he was eaten by fish. And so it was just funny that place could be called Hamberley as well, like fish bait. Obviously the connotations with the colour black as well. So that's just one of the sidelines. Sorry, I thought you were. Oh, is it? Okay. And then, yeah, I have very strange synchronicities. I'm wearing these trainers. It's like this happened last week, yet again with Osiris. It might be me, synchronicities, people, our brain, how it works. But went to Camden Town. I'm looking for just a pair of trainers for me and my daughter. And I was looking, obviously, typically I'd buy Nike and all the other kind of stuff. And there's a shop, like the shoe shop size, but it wasn't there anymore. And then I've gone into the shop. First thing I've looked, the first trainers I just looked, they weren't really my style. I just thought, I've just gone into the shop. And then the first things I saw, fine. So I had to buy them. Yeah, and it was like these things are constantly like happening basically. And any questions or anything like that? No? All right, to break it up a little bit. Yeah. Oh, that's Heru's like a falcon god. Yeah, so it was like he came to my house, oversaw some operation, and from my experience and from what I've been told, it's like this is like I'm involved in some magic which goes back millennia. That's the things that I've been told, that this is a magical process and it goes back a millennia, and it's not just affecting me. It's something that is infected. It's here to affect it, like it's going to affect everything. But I'll continue with like this. And okay, where was I? Okay, so this is predestined and preordained and told through oral tales and tapestry and communicated in symbolic references and ritual magic practices, which would last a millennium until the magicians remembered their magic. Both my earthly mum and my cosmic mum said, mark it on the wall, and they did, in order to illuminate the psycho-spiritual senses. So it appears that we're here playing out an Asarian drama in a 3D holographic learning simulation to know thyself. Thus, unite thyself, the unmanifested and the manifested, in a loving embrace of balance and unity, sankofa and restoration of balance, in which the heart vibrates in unison with the feather. There's definitely been a change in terms of astrological lineups, which have had various names in accordance to whatever tradition you follow. The Kali Yuga, the Golden Age, as well as the Age of Aquarius, the Water Bearer. So that was, I'll go back here. I'll go to that. So, I'll find it enough time. Okay, that's it. And then I was going to put in another video, which will come. And definitely been a change within the, and then this all coincided with the 2012 prophecies and the end of the world. The end didn't come as people feared. 8 years later, we had worldwide lockdowns. Along with that, there was a unique change within the simulation. This shift was pop culturally known as the Mandela effect, which alluded to the notion that we had moved from the is into the was. If you've seen the rebooted Forrest Gump, he now says, oh, anyone know that about the Mandela effect in here by any chance? No? Okay, then I'll just play this just to break it up a little bit. Forrest Gump. And can you remember what he said about the box of chocolates? Okay, all right. So I'm just using this as a, okay, let's see. No, that's not the one I wanted, but let's see, hopefully it gives it there.
You want a chocolate? I could eat about 1.5 million of these. My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
So can you remember him saying life is or life was? And that's just a small example. There's many examples, but I just wanted to use that one because they're saying that we've moved from the is into the... Sorry? He said life was like a box of chocolates instead of is. But people, you may think that it's like a new video, but basically part of this thing called the Mandela effect was actually a change in your reality. And it may, so people would have noticed it on things like videos and films and stuff, but it was actually a change to do with everything, your whole reality, your DNA, your cells, every single thing. Yeah. When you saw it first, it said life is like a box of chocolates. But now it says life was like a box of chocolates. And if you watch E.T., he used to say E.T. phone home. Yeah. And now he says E.T. home call. Yeah.
So it changed it?
No, that is through a reality change. Sorry? No, your reality changed. Your whole reality changed.
Yeah, but they experienced that through using different technology.
No.
How are we hearing it?
If you've got an old video, if you watched your old video and put it on, it would say, no, it would say life was like a box of chocolates still.
Why do we remember it differently?
Because your reality, because if you can remember what it was from the past, what you experienced in that timeline, but now you're in a different timeline, and now your reality is has changed. And that's what I'm saying. It's in this, it kind of informed you that you've moved from one thing into the other. So now it was is, and now you've moved into the was. Exactly. So that's
So is that almost like, like we're under like a program?
yes. That's
So we're now being programmed differently now.
Exactly. So this is why you have to turn things like the Great Reset and all of this. Yes. Sorry? I'm going to go into this. That's part of it. It's like, yeah. Okay. So, excuse me. So, okay. So, like I was saying, I was informed of this great change to our collective reality through various visions and dreams. In the first vision, I saw 4 cataclysmic events. Each one felt like a large hand sweeping an entire civilization. A new one would be erected. Then an invisible hand would sweep the civilization, which felt like dominoes, and would disappear into the dust like particles, but yet would be recycled to repeat itself within the same construct, but a totally new land formation. According to that vision, we were in the 4th of this creation. Or it could be I've entered this hologram in the 4th cycle. There may have been others, but 4 cycle lines up with other ancient traditions who have various names, like the 4 cycles of the sun in the Mayans, and there's other traditions who talk about 4. Like in the Bible, they say the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. That's talking about these 4 cycles as well. In another vision, I saw 2 paths or 2 timelines. One looked like another destruction. So it's almost like if you've seen a map, like a tube map. So I've seen one thing going there and another thing breaking there. On the first one, the first timeline, I did see a cataclysmic event. Everything was burning, basically. And there is like prophecies about the next baptism is going to be a baptism of fire. So, not here to scare people, but as I look so I saw 2 paths, 2 timelines. One looked like a destruction, another which went down. This was a mystery. It had not been written, or I wasn't privy to that information at that time. It was like a prophetic cliffhanger. This could also be collective of a collective timeline, another being an individual timeline. We all have a choice. I feel the aim for me is to find a working balance between the two, because the future can be altered for better or for worse, depending on your perspective. We do live in a digital feedback loop. I've also had dreams of seeing multiple timelines, as well as being able to jump into different timelines. This is one of the many attributes of the spiritual eye. Once activated, you can phase shift consciousness and travel through the quantum world of the infinitely small. I've also been shown a genetic consciousness shift, a move from a far higher state of consciousness. This was demonstrated by another vision, which I was shown our current reality within vibration. I knew intuitively that this is why we live in a world like this. The vibration is very low, very dense. I knew this is all it could possibly manifest, cause and effect. I was then shown another vibrational field. This was a much higher vibration, at least 4 times higher than the one that we're living now. I knew this would be a totally new world according to that vibrational rate, to the degree that the world vibrating like this would be totally unrecognizable and incomprehensible to the beings within this current rate of vibration. I then saw a stele of Horus and Set and was told that this new vibration would be delivered through my being into the field. Conduits aligned with the frequency would harmonically tune into the higher frequency band, thus freeing them from this current paradigm. I believe at this point it's a break in the chains of this reality. I use the term breaking the chains because I've experienced the notion of being trapped here in some way, as well as knowing that the very paradigm people live facilitates an internal program which I've named as unskilled slave think or Willie Lynch syndrome. This program is extremely clever, so much so that the populace under the program trance will fight, even kill people they deem not under the spell in various degrees, not suitable for the smooth running of the program. The program runs best when the populace displays its fears in various degrees. The last point is illustrated in Plato's story, the allegory of the cave. So I'll just show you what I was shown in terms of, let's see. So it's this picture, I was showing this, but basically it corresponds to the spine, and Horus and Set, which some people have said one is like higher, one is lower, but it's basically what they're doing. They're stepping on this, stepping on what it seems like what you could say, people have decoded as like almost like a grave dig, or it could be a message, but of a grave digging, what's the word, like a spade. But basically it's a symbol of unification. And another vision I saw some hieroglyphs, but I saw two souls. This was before I got this one, but it was within that, it was telling me about the science of melanin, basically, and like the spiritual connotations, but I'll get into that after. And because of some of these hieroglyphs, they have multiple stories. Like, as they say, a picture has 1,000 words, has multiple stories within the glyphs themselves, like whether it's the way the people are standing, what foot they've got forward, everything. Everything means something. But let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah, so. Yeah, and this is like the grave digger symbol, but I believe it also corresponds to ancestral knowledge. Because of part of our ancestral consciousness is downloaded. Your traumas through your ancestors is downloaded into the field, which I'll go into it better, but actually keeps you trapped. Part of it that's part of the trap that keeps you trapped within this field as well. All that trauma is within like this construct, basically. Yeah. Yeah.
Part of the trap, could it be by the things that we're saying?
Sorry?
Part of the trap, could it be by the things that we're saying about ourselves?
Well, it's all, I would say that it's all inbuilt within the program. Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
Because we keep repeating this word that we're in the struggle.
Yeah. Yeah. All of the words are like coded to like it's like most it can be little things.
It's like a spell, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like you're putting a spell on
Yourself. Exactly. So it could be the littlest things. If I ask somebody, how you doing? Most people say, I'm not bad. To me, that means that your default setting is bad. You're already saying your default setting is bad. You don't say, I like, my thing is, I'm excellent. Already your cells like lift up. It can be just the little simple things that people are like almost like don't think about. How they like self-taught, how they talk to their children. Most people often are interested in almost like what can I say? They don't give their children a greater sense of themselves. They're always trying to impart what their own beliefs in their children instead of giving, like really thinking about how do I empower my child. You know, it's more about how do I get my child to think like me. It's a complete. Exactly, but that's part of it as well. That's the entrainment. That's what I say. It's almost like a dog what chases its own tail, you know.
It's not understanding.
Exactly, because I'm going to go into that as well. Exactly. So, okay. So I say there's hope, though.
Sorry to kill the joke, you've only got like 50.
Yeah, I'll get through. I'll get through. Yeah, I'll get through as much as I can anyway. So there's hope, though. There's hope, though. If there's a self-created fear, there must also be a possibility of the opposite. This can be discovered within the structure of the archetype symbols of the hero's journey. The journey all of us are called to do, but only a few brave set out to do. So we hide behind materialism and honor the patrons of that reality with hero status. We become so acquainted with anxiety and fear, it seems so normal, so much so that we celebrate the anti-hero. And by the term anti, when people say anti actually means it means something that you want to be. Yeah, it's not that you're against something. So we celebrate the anti-hero who are worshipped as geniuses. Maybe they are because they display these traits masterfully. To think differently must be the work of lunacy or Satan. It may well be both, and if they're the bad guys, maybe a careful understanding of lunacy and Satan might indeed reveal a different understanding. Whilst if you're brave enough to look at what has been presented to you, life can be a lifeless corpse, blind, deaf and dumb, loaded with corporate meds from cradle to the grave. But there's hope. Part of this genetic change will be brought about by the incoming light codes, which will switch on, activate latent DNA, creating new neurological pathways, hormonal changes, and the rearrangement of your current nervous system alongside this horizontal gene transfer. The recent sun activity and other weather phenomenon, as well as interplanetary alignment, are all part of this because it's not an earthly phenomenon. Our origins are celestial. That's why I was just showing you like the things on Mars and things like that. The incoming light codes manifest numerologically on our physical plane. This is why there's been a steady increase in people noticing repeated number patterns, angel numbers. Angels are angles of light. The crop circle phenomenon is also part of this narrative as they display complex mathematical formations which have been written into the simulation. The crop circles are created by orbs of light which manifest in and out of 3D. These are basic, and I've been visited by these orbs, as well as having, said it before, about having like very strange things with this number 1111. Like myself, I'm born in November 1974. 74 is that's up to 11. My missus is like my partner. We have the 1111 like directly in like as a symbol. It's like I'm born on the 28th, she's born on the 29th. I'm born November the 11th month, she's born December the 12th month. I'm 74, she's 85. So it's like 111 basically. I'm the 28th, she's the 29th, my daughter's the 30th. It's like these number patterns like basically they follow me everywhere. And it's like at times my house will shake. I have at certain times corresponding to the number 11. I have fireworks what go off in the sky, what have manifested out of thin air. People like my sisters and stuff have seen them happening, and all corresponding to a number 11. But like, lots of things happen around me, all to do with number 11, 22, 33. If you add up my date of birth, it comes up to 33. It's like everything I add up always comes with these numbers 11. Like this was just happened the other day, where I make my own clothes and stuff, and I just leave. Like I typically listen to podcasts, but there was this lady, Mama Callie Stitchin, and she's talking about these cosmic prophecies. I didn't watch I was just listening. The thing stops, and as you can see, it stops at 11:11. The battery's 22%. The time is 33:11. And then she's got a star map, but she's got this star map, and it's got this big Y there. I'm a personal trainer, or work as a personal trainer. This is my business card, which I have, and that's on the. And then when I looked at the thing, my phone, I'm like, because I always take pictures like when my phone stops because get a message of the numbers basically. Yeah, and when I saw that, I was like, wow, that was just about a week and a half ago. But this is just using that as an example. It happens all the time basically. And this is all part of like this cosmic prophecy, and it's to do with like she's done this coordinates to do with yeah, again, it's to do with the Sirius star system. It's to do with Osiris and Orion and Isis. And that's what I was talking about earlier, that this story's like basically, so yeah, following me around basically, but it's following all of us around. We've believed, like, whoever we've, like, most probably spoke about this somewhere else, even though we've forgotten. And yeah, we're just reliving certain things. And so what was I saying? Yeah, and then, so, yeah, part of the crop circle phenomenon is, so that was another thing. So basically, with the crop circles, it's like, I don't know if you've ever heard of a Adinkra codes. So you'll have, like, basically, like this is like, a crop circle. This is the Adinkra code, basically. And it was like this one years ago when my body first started vibrating. My body, whenever I saw this one, would vibrate, and it would alert me to this crop circle, to this Adinkra. But I was also alerted that this wasn't the complete picture of the thing. And then after I found this was the complete picture. So this is the crop circle. Can you see it? Yeah. And basically, and this is all to do with computer binary code and things like that. But it's got like, it has things, it's like 6464. Sorry? I can't remember. It's most probably somewhere in Wiltshire or something. A lot of them are in Wiltshire. But basically, this pattern has been downloaded into my brain. Like, I have these things, they're like, I call them bioelectrical signatures. And so it's like things, it's challenging to explain because it's challenging to explain. But I have it almost like, it's like lasers. You just can't see them because it's not in this 3D like world. But it's like lasers will imprint certain patterns into my head. So then or into my brain, or sometimes into the parts of my body. And I believe this is why, like, some of this knowledge, it's almost like it's not there, but we have vestiges of it. So women will have, what's the henna tattoos? So I have these like patterns, basically like henna tattoos, drawn into my body. I have serpents, the serpent I get drawn into the front of my head, comes down. A lot of times I get the eye of Heru down on my face a lot. It's all like these energy signatures, but part of it is like certain things get downloaded, almost like downloaded into my being, but it also, because it's long, but I do things, like done things astrally to the magnetic fields, and a lot of these things get downloaded into the magnetic fields, and everybody is an antenna with it themselves. So what I was talking about is people will soon be downloading this information into their genetics as well. That's in short, basically. So and in physics, they will call these, because of, you'll find certain physicians talking about adinkras nowadays, but they call them error correcting codes. Do the last bit. So basically, then you have error correcting codes named by physics. You may know them as Adinkra symbols worn on clothes, ornaments, jewelry, most noticeably by the Ashanti tribe in Ghana, which I was born into. These symbols are of high extra-terrestrial science. These are keys, blueprints to unlocking applications to the matrix we're in. Lost keys of knowledge, yet kept intimately close, but never forgotten. The name says it all, error correcting codes. This is the story of the four. We now have 2 strains of DNA and asleep within a repeating cycle. In the film Superman, they had the 3 baddies locked in something called the Phantom Zone. I feel that this material existence is similar to that Phantom Zone, basically being locked in. The fall tells us that how we lost our original essence. What we call junk DNA became the matrix in which we live in now. So our melanin creates the prison which we are now in, and it's this and that disc, and it's like your those two. It's hard to explain, but they're disconnected from the junk DNA. That junk DNA is what actually creates the matrix itself. creates this 3D illusionary hologram, and it's almost like the vibrations between the two. That's what manifests within that that's what manifests the 3D reality that you're living in. Yeah.
It's kind of tricky because I was researching error correction codes.
Yeah.
Literally like last night.
Oh, okay.
And they was explaining the science behind it.
Yeah.
And how once you've got the zeros and ones,
Exactly.
you put it into a three-dimensional shape.
Yeah.
And then you dig up what's incorrect, and then you finalize. It can be in threes or fours.
Yeah.
It can be fourth dimensional shape or five.
Yeah.
Align themselves to these things.
I would say, because I haven't got any, I'm not here to say like I've got any of the answers, like because of in the last year since like I started talking here, like yeah, I was just going through certain things and I was giving the information. Each time I come, I give out a little bit of information. So maybe next time I might have a little bit more, but all I could say, if there is anything, just like what anybody says, or what I've been, the main thing I would do is just go into certain, like if you've got certain meditation and breathing practices and things like that, it's just keeping yourself on a certain level, but that would just go in for just well-being in general. But I do believe that emotionally will have an impact, and if you can do, I would say stay, like one of the things that has been given to me a lot is that because of like obviously it's like I read like magnetic fields from everything, and if you know about what's the thing that the people in the hospitals, they call it what do you go into when they take a scan from you, what is it called? MRI. It's called a magnetic imaging thing. It's basically what I have basically is very similar to an MRI scan, and I can oftentimes, when people are taking certain medications, I can tell where it's going to affect you, like, well, the person, like the effects, and they say the effects of something. A lot of people's pharmaceutical medication affects your frontal cortex and it affects your stomach. And over a period of time, those two places, as well as quite a bit of the back of the brain, but those two places, and the frontal cortex stops you from making executive decisions. That's one of the key things. And it's like, it seems like a lot of and obviously you've got your brain and your gut. Yeah, your gut brain. A lot of these things that people are taking have a detrimental effect in terms of what decisions they make, and actually keep you just, obviously, I'm not saying anything revolutionary, but keep people locked in that system, basically. So that's just, I would say, if anything, there's a reason that I often get shown, like people will be like, yeah, and I might be talking to somebody and I'll be feeling certain things and I'll ask them and it will be, yeah, just based on a lot of the stuff that they've been taking, basically. Is like with the Adinkra thing, I don't know if most, like, this is all like to do with like Kabbalistic thing, you'll find that same diagram encoded in the Kabbalistic tree of life, which is like what the physicists are using as the Adinkras. So you can see the correspondence between the two. They're the same thing. Yeah, exactly. And one of, because yeah, again, had a major synchronicity with this Kabbalistic tree of life, because some of the things, I go through is like my pineal gland over it, this was last year, was building. It was like, I didn't know what it was building, but it was like it does things within the magnetic fields, but it was building what I thought was a box at the time. Every night it would start just doing things. It's like I have, because over the process, it's like energy centers in my body can start manipulating magnetic fields. So it's like things will start doing things, and it basically built this template within the magnetic fields. Then it turned it upside down, and the energy came down, and that was part of it. It's like in the top of the tree is Kefa, the crown. Malkuth is the manifested world, but it turned it around, which was almost telling me that this energy has now been turned around. Yeah, 5 minutes. And the energy had now been turned around, and that energy was coming in. About I'd done this talk, and a girl or a woman came up to me when I had some books on display, and then she was like, oh, and it was like, yet again, confirming things, because then she came up to me and she was like, oh, I've seen this thing in one of your books, and it's the Kabbalistic tree. I kept on seeing it in my dreams, but it was turned upside down. And I was like, yet again, it's like people will always come with like confirmations of certain things that, yeah, because it's like, it's everybody, basically. Everybody's part of it. I get that, the downloads I get, because it'll be, everybody's like, you're getting information, you can say that's a download. I often get I'll say the main downloads I get are genetic downloads. They're like, it just comes in terms of like particles, it's almost like you're in a snowstorm, and it's just like particles, like, and it just comes, and it's like, it's just like, vibration, basically. And then the more those particles have been downloaded into me, the more this magnetic field has built over the period of time, and the more I can feel other like people and things and things like that. But I believe that is where people were at one point, but even greater than that. That's why these structures, like I was talking about earlier, where people they don't know how they do this and that, and it's like they had a completely different technology, basically. Like their inner technology was different. So then, even if their inner technology was different, the stuff they were using was a completely different technology as well. But I'll leave it at that anyway. But thank you so much for coming here today and listening. Thank you.